Hello everyone, welcome back to another weekend analysis video. I'm Taylor Moe and hope you guys are having a good start to your weekend. As you can see, we had another bullish week in the markets. This market is flying to the upside. Every dip is being bought and I hope you guys are on board with that. Last week we talked about this weekly candle here. Breaking above this dotted weekly trend line that I expected, to be resistance. I expected us to stay sideways for a bit longer here, but we got that break, and so I had to call it for what it is, and it was very bullish, right? A lot of these sectors were breaking out, and so you can see early in the week, if we go down to a daily here, this green line here is a monthly resistance line based on monthly candles. So we have a lot of time left in the month, but just so you guys know what that is, we found a bit of resistance at this monthly trend line. But the key here is early in the week, what I was looking at was this gap at 306.18. If the market was in any kind of trouble, if this resistance, this monthly resistance trend line was going to be the end goal for the market for a while, you would want to see this gap taken out. You would want to see a daily close below that gap. But as you can see, we bounced. We had a nice little doji. It was very light volume, right? There was no real sellers coming in here on these days. You can see very below average volume every day. We got the gap higher. Sure, we got a tail candle. But again, I was watching the next gap. And if we go down a little lower here on an hourly, you can see both these gaps, right, have had just nice reactions, right? Everybody's buying the dip. They hit almost perfectly on the dot, and the market is sent off in the other way. And we are literally just staircasing up on, light volatility. Every dip is being bought, and market is looking strong, okay? So I've seen a lot of people trying to short the market, trying to time the top, and guys, I can tell you, from experience, that is the worst thing you can possibly do, right? Buy the dips, wait for some price action, wait for whatever signal you use. But in this kind of market, just buy the dips, ride the waves, and let the top be shown to you. You might lose one trade at the top, but that's how it goes in this kind of market. You just want to be playing with the trend. So obviously you can see here that we're in this channel, right? These dotted lines are the weekly candle channel that we're in. So I am looking for more upside, guys. Obviously we are extended. It's very possible that we pull back. So I'm going to give you guys some numbers on the downside as well, just so you're prepared. But the bottom line is we have room up to this trend line. Every dip is still being bought. The market, it's on a one-way ticket higher until it's not, guys. So be looking for, depending on when we get there, 312, 313, 314 as we move up this trend line. Be looking for more upside. Don't be surprised if we get it, okay? We'll go and look at some sectors now to kind of see what else is going on. IWM, we'll look at weekly here. We said last week this was breaking out of trend. It had these pivots here. It wasn't, home and free yet, but it was looking bullish. And this is a market leader. If a market leader is breaking out to the upside, if people are putting their money in small cap stocks, these are riskier stocks, right? So if people are putting their money in these stocks and they're breaking out technically on the chart, it's a technical breakout, there's nothing wrong with the market. That's a very strong market. And yes, the IWM is still in a worse place on the chart as a whole than the spider, but regardless, they're strong right now. They can still play catch up, okay? This can be indicative of maybe long-term trouble for the market, but for right now, we take it for what it is. It's bullish. And yes, we couldn't get above this pivot high, but there's nothing wrong with this. If you want to call it a top, you can maybe call it a top. You can trade against it if you want to, but I'd just be careful with that. we have broken these trend lines. We've made a higher low. We're making higher highs. It's still bullish, guys, right? So if we do get above this pivot high, obviously we have two breakdown candles here. Those would be two major targets, the tops of those, right? XLF, financials. These are honestly carrying the market. You know, the market's not going to go down with the financials going up. And so I was watching this level here, 29.81, top of this breakdown candle. And the close of this week is 29.84, just 3 cents above, 3 cents above that, right? So these are things I'm definitely watching. I take note of that. If the market was weak whatsoever, that wouldn't have happened. 3 cents above a strong resistance point, that wouldn't happen. The XLF would have closed below if it was showing weakness. It wouldn't have broken out of this wedge, right? This is typically a bearish pattern, right? You get a bearish move followed by a wedge, right? And it breaks down, right? People are always looking for this to break down. They're saying, oh yeah, this is going down. They try to time the top every time. But just play the trend, right? If you want to try to time it while it's at the trend line, good for you. Like, you can do that. But for me, I wait for a downtrend to start, right? I'm going to play this up and up and up until I see a sign. Right now, this is bullish. This is breaking out to the upside. This is broken its breakdown candle high. It's broken the wedge. Next up is the all-time highs, guys. Don't be surprised if this makes all-time highs next week. And don't be surprised if we maybe get resistance at the top and we go all the way back down into the wedge. Anything can happen. Be prepared for both. But for now, trend is up. Play it up. Dow Transportation Department. This is bullish as well, guys. Right, this was the zone I was watching. This breakdown candle opened too high. The high on this is 1144.67, and the close is 1167. So we've closed above that zone. We do have this zone just shortly above it. That's where we actually ended up finding resistance, but still a solid close, right? We've closed above the last pivot high close right here, right? So that's an important level. The breakdown's an important level. So this trend has been broken, guys, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 touches on this trend line. That's been broken. Man, look for this to test the all-time highs too. Maybe not next week, but until something changes, guys, this is going to the all-time highs as well. SMH, good view of the tech sector. We know that this has been breaking out. I called this breakout on the weekly chart back when it happened. I said, do not get in the way of this thing, because this is a very, very bullish pattern here, guys. Ascending triangles are some of the strongest reactions, some of the strongest breakouts that I've ever seen happen from ascending triangles, right? So, watch out. This thing, look at it. This is what's called a high base, guys. And they had one right here too, right? If you want to draw, it's when a market, gaps up, it breaks out, has a breakup candle, however it breaks out, right? It broke out from this level here, broke up, and it creates a base that's high. And it came out of it one time here, but gapped right back up. It's doing it again right here. And you know what? Actually, this was the opening range, right? That first candle range, that's what we've been in. It's actually broken up on Friday, guys. So I'm looking for the SMH to make higher highs, guys. Higher highs next week. Does it have to? No, definitely not. It doesn't have to, right? And where we know that we'd be wrong is if it came down to this gap here. also lines up with a pivot high. And if we start trading through that gap and closing below that gap, then we're looking at this gap. Then we're looking at this breakout area, right? There is a lot of support. Don't get me wrong. It doesn't mean it's going to melt away. But if we don't hold this first gap and pivot, we might be headed for a more, short-term downtrend. Maybe fill a couple of the gaps and then continue on our way. Okay, and that goes for the SPY as well. If we do end up coming down, just watch these gap areas. Watch the areas where we bounced. And then especially watch this breakup candle here. Excuse me, not that one. This one here. So the low is 299.68. Excuse me, it is this one. 304.74. 304.74. You've got a gap here somewhere in this general area of 304, 305. That should provide pretty strong support if the market does come down for a short-term downtrend. You also have these former all-time highs here, these former big pivots, right around 302, 303. So down in the low 300s, guys, is a huge amount of support. If for any reason we do find ourselves down there, that's an area to be watching. Watch how we're acting around there. Are we holding? Is price just beating against that area, looking to go lower? That would probably not be a good sign for the market at all. That would probably be indicative of a longer-term downtrend, probably down to this 294 area, which is really our next big key area. Okay, so as you know, I always do some picks each week. Let's kind of go over some recent ones that I've made, just to show you how they've gone. Tesla, said I was looking for more upside. I think 2 weeks ago, after we had this gap up, we did get some, and I said don't be surprised by a retracement. And I mean, just look at this perfect retracement. Here is Wednesday's trading action, breaks up, and Thursday, I was in on Thursday. Great trade. Right back to this pivot. If we look on maybe a 10-minute chart here, look at that, guys. Right, there's the gap. That's the important area that I'm waiting for the market to bust over, right, to go long up to this next zone. And look at that, guys. I mean, it was just a perfect breakup on high volume. Look at all these entry spots, and even if you waited for these to form, you'd say, okay, yes, this looks bullish. Get in, and it was a great trade. Great trade on Tesla. A couple other ones that I've talked about. Microsoft finally broke up today, guys. I talked about this one last week, saying look for this to push with the market higher. It didn't really do that. So I was looking for this kind of 145 area break. You can see how much it struggled with it, right? Look at this day, couldn't, and just fell. And so today we finally got this break up, closed on the highs of the hourly candle, and from there it was history, right? I was actually in the trade since that candle closed, and I am still swinging Microsoft calls, looking for more upside next week. Now, where do I think this can stop? Well, if we look at this chart, right, we have some room on this trend line here up to about 155. Now, that could be a stretch. It may happen, but while we're at all-time highs, another good way to look for a target here is to actually measure the up move before the flag. So if we look at the highest candle close, we are looking right here. So this is where we actually broke out from. This was the breakout level, was 141.57. So if we take our trendline tool and measure up to the top of the flag, we've got about $4, right? So if we just add on another $4 to the top of that, we'll get $8, and that will put the price around 150, right? So that's a symmetrical move. That's a way to kind of do arbitrary profit taking. Also look for big round numbers. So because it lines up with 150, That's actually a really good price. So if you are going to play Microsoft upside this week, look for that 150 area to be a key target. And if we happen to bust right through that, look for 155. Okay. Those are kind of the two key areas I'd be looking for on Microsoft upside next week. AMD, I also talked about. We talked about the weekly trend line break that it had. I don't have it drawn here anymore. But, I mean, you can see on Monday, boom, skyrocket. It's up 4%. The next day, it's up almost 2%. Starts coming down. But I want you guys to notice we've actually closed above the former all-time highs. And we've actually been in a little pennant right above these highs. And as you can see on this day chart, I have another trend line drawn here. And AMD has room, guys. AMD, it's a bull pennant, bull flag, whatever you want to call it. And then there's two key areas on the downside that really keep this valid. I would say the all-time highs is pretty important. If we can keep holding that, that keeps it very bullish. If we happen to come down to this zone here, this would be the breakup candle, the breakout area, whatever you want to call it. We should see a strong reaction off that area. If we do see a strong reaction, I'd say it keeps it bullish. Now we can even come down here. I would say that's not very bullish, guys, but this is kind of the last chance for AMD to maybe save itself if it does come down here. I would really like it to hold these first two levels though. And I'm looking for AMD to get up to this trend line, maybe next week, maybe not. But if the market does continue up, like it looks like it will, looking for about 38 to 39 in AMD, guys. Okay. I actually have two more trade ideas for you. Got a lot of them this week. BABA is one, okay? Here's BABA's chart, right? And I just want you guys to notice this isn't an uptrend, right? This is merely a bullish pennant, right? In the long picture, if you look at a monthly chart, right, we have an important area here. We have a breakdown candle high, right? And this high comes in at 195.72, right? Right about there. It's not exact, but that's all right. Right, and that's also actually, it's this weekly top. So that's an important area, right? I want you to look at the volume on BABA. Had earnings, and it's been doing well. It closed the week above this breakdown candle high. It closed the week above this channel trend. It closed the week above this doji candle that looks like a rejection of that breakdown candle high. This is bullish, guys. Now, it did happen to close inside of this pennant, but I think early next week, BABA is going to look to push this level, okay, guys? Especially if the market is continuing up. This is a very, very good bullish play, guys. It may spike up and then spike back down later in the week, right? But remember, this trend is up. And it's been sideways for a long time. And if this market's about to take off, then BABA's going to be with it, guys. BABA's looking to go higher. It's looking strong. Definitely keep your eye. Lastly, but not least at all, is Baidu. Baidu also reported earnings this week. And as you can see, big spike, right? You can see this a lot nicer on a daily chart. There's a nice little pennant, bear flag, whatever you want to call it. Early in the week before earnings, this flag actually broke up. And I was actually looking to trade a break higher on both of these Tuesday and Wednesday. We didn't get it. And earnings finally sparked this move on Baidu. It was massive. Me and my team were playing this Thursday and Friday. It was absolutely amazing. Now, why did it move so much? You might be wondering. And this is something I look for when I trade breakouts. is you want to trade these zones that have gaps. You want to trade zones that have had big, large swings, big, large candles, because that's where volatility happens, right? Price wants to go to these areas where there's lots of buyers and sellers. It's attracted to those areas. So when a stock breaks out from one of those areas, it's going to go. It's going to go on to the next one, or it's going to try to, and then sellers are going to come in and push it back to the last one. That's how trading works, guys. That's supply and demand, okay? So Baidu is still going to be on my radar for next week. You can see it's actually closed in this just wide open area, guys. Whether it gets pushed back down or keeps going, I really like its potential if it keeps going, by the way. I mean, look at this just giant gap. So much potential if this thing keeps on going. So definitely be watching this. There's a few targets that I have listed here if it keeps going up. On the downside, look for this breakup candle low to hold to remain bullish, right? There should be support there. If that breaks, look for it to come retest this trend line, play it on the downside, okay? That's it for this week, guys. Market's bullish, looking good. We'll see what happens next weekend, all right? Thank you for watching. Please leave a like. Share it with anybody that can use this information, that might like the picks. And have a great weekend, guys. I'll see you in the next one.